Hey, I'm Jason Harrell.
And I'm Justin Boyd.
And let's freaking do this.
Welcome to episode number 26 of Let's Freaking Do This. Nice. What a sound effect that was.
That was
just
great.
Kicking it off.
I had to just throw you off.
No, it sounded awesome. It was like I couldn't have a better sound effect if I had like a soundboard of like cracking open a beer. But
I was trying to beat Peyton Matusa's intro when he's staring at the screen. So
my name is Justin Boyd. And once again, I'm thrilled to be joined by my good friend and musician, Jason Harrell. And Jason, how can you top that when the guest just like takes over?
I don't know. I could really just down this one, but I'd probably I could down it and crash, like smash it on my forehead.
If you shotgun that beer right now, talk about like up in the level.
I can't shotgun it though. I already opened it, so it's too late.
So Jason, why don't you introduce our guest today?
This is Blake Farrar from TXRiverTonk.
How's it going?
And this is our first meta podcast.
That's right.
It's meta because we're all podcasters here. Oh yeah, by the way, what do you got there? You got a Ghost Note beer.
I do have a Ghost Note beer.
Damn.
This might not be the longest podcast episode y'all have ever done because I don't play music. I'm not going to do that, but I did want to go on record as having the biggest beer.
That is a big beer. What is that? That's is like a 24 ounce or something?
It's a 32 ounce beer.
Jeez.
It's a Crowler. It's a new lager they have. So Kenny told me to tell you hi.
Yeah. I want to come back out there soon. I should probably send him an email and ask him if he wants me to come back though.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he would. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that place. Preferably maybe not like in July or August, so it's probably not the best time to go out there.
Oh yeah, no, right now it's beautiful because the flowers are blooming. It's not too hot, but they do have that, the barrel room if need be.
Right. Yeah. If we go indoors in August, but anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do you want to kick this off, man? This is a different kind of conversation, I think.
It's definitely weird for me not being the one that's in control of the conversation, right? But I do have some notes and some things that I'll bring up eventually.
I was gonna say we might need you to take control since we tend to veer off and just like.
I'm the captain now.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
Well, I got these Voodoo Ranger Fruit Force something another, and it's like 9.5%. So I got 3 of them over here. And I'm gonna drink them all in an hour. So
that's the one that tastes like a fruit punch, kind of weird.
There's one of them that's orange and it tastes like what was it? My wife said she hates it. She said it tastes like a pineapple juice and throw up. But this one I like them all. But this was pretty good. It's a fruit punch IPA is what it's called.
Well, we could talk about beer for a long time if you want to.
But one of the things maybe we could jump right into is like you're what do you call it? What do you say on the show? It's underwritten.
Yeah, they're one of our underwriters. That's what we call people because we're a community nonprofit radio station run by volunteers, and so basically everything we get is either through donations or ads that we run for local businesses, preferably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there it is. So my buddy John did that for me. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it looks great. So just so, I mean, I'm sure anybody who's watching this or listening to this knows you better than they know us. But Blake, just let us know, kind of who you are and, what you're doing. And obviously you've been doing this a little bit longer than we have. So take it away.
Yeah. So it was October 8th, 2021 was our first episode. I did a pilot episode the week before. It's not on Spotify or streaming services. We have the recording. I just haven't really taken the time to post it yet. So started October of 2021. So what's that, about a year and a half, I guess, of doing it. And it's typically once a week, Fridays from noon to 2, bring in artists for the second hour usually, but it's a really loose format, right? From week to week, you never really know what it's going to look like. But yeah, we're just trying to push music that I think should be played, but maybe is not getting played. and help bring in artists to jam out for me once a week at least. That's kind of cool.
And you play music on there, and you and I talked about this once before, but you play music on there, like a lot of it's like, old country stuff, and you what was it somebody said recently, like with every episode of Texas River Tonk you get a history lesson as well. Because you always have like a write-up about like something, where this person was born, what hits they had, what
they got arrested for, yeah,
like what other bands they played in, all that kind of stuff. And it's really interesting. I think I asked you once before about how you're able to get those on, and it had something to do with the licenses that the radio station pays for, right?
Yeah, since we're a radio station and we can play music, we do pay BMI and ASCAP fees, which could be thousands of dollars a year. So that's one benefit of doing the show through a radio station is that's all covered, right? All the equipment's paid for. Like for me, it doesn't cost much. I do all the editing at home. I've had a couple people donate mics to me that I use and things like that. But
nice.
It's pretty low overhead for me, and the station does run on a pretty tight budget. So if you go back and listen to some of the first episodes, especially like the first one, you hear that really bad hum, that buzz, like through the whole show, because our wiring from the board to the computer was inadequate, right?
Is it like not grounded or something?
Who knows? It might have been a phantom power source or not grounded or something like that. I came into this actually knowing zero about recording. I don't play music myself. So I just jumped in and just took over the board and kind of just learned things. So if you just kind of listen to the episode, you're just listening to me learn.
Yeah.
And then kind of learn from mistakes sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing we do with music. So
right, yeah.
Like I've recorded myself and I don't know what I'm doing. So
and Blake, me and Jason talked about this several times on here. The reason why we started this podcast is like, when we were like in high school, we thought, oh, we'd be hilarious if we were like, we think we're funny. We think we'd be great on the radio. And like, you have a radio show. Like, that's a really cool thing. So like, how did you get into, how did you get to have a show on the radio station? Were you always interested in that? Did you want to be a DJ growing up, or how did all this happen?
Honestly, no, right? I never wanted to play music growing up. I had friends that were in high school that played guitar, and I probably should have been more like them, and kind of followed that path a little bit, but it just never appealed to me. The closest I ever got to playing an instrument was my brother had a bass guitar, a black bass guitar when I was in middle school, and I learned Inner Sandman, Metallica. I learned that do 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 do, and that's like the only song I ever played, and it just never got to me. So I've just always liked music. I love music, love live music. And this kind of ties in with y'all because I remember one of the first concerts my parents ever took me to was a Vanilla Ice MC Hammer concert, and I know Vanilla Ice has come up on this show a time or two before.
Vanilla Ice probably came up on this show because the drummer in Jaret's band was Vanilla Ice's drummer for a while.
I know you were trying to walk on eggshells and kind of be careful about what you said. My son is walking around. My son here has also been on Texas River Tonk a few times.
Yeah.
So you want to say something, man? You want to say hi?
Hi.
Hey.
He's pretty popular. Whenever he comes on, he tends to get some viewers or listeners. Sometimes I'll even let him pick out a song.
What's his name again?
Van, V-A-N.
Van. Okay.
That was my wife's granddad's name.
Okay.
Van Vaughn. So he got a family name.
Nice.
Yeah. So how I got into the actual show, my sometimes co-host, his radio name is Ray, if you figured it out, right? That's not his real name, but he has a show from 10 to noon, and he's been doing it for probably 4 or 5 years. He used to be on a radio show, I think, in Huntsville. Is that where Sam Houston State is?
Yep.
Okay, so he was on a radio show in Huntsville. He used to do like country radio back in the day, but he's been doing a radio show at KZSM for years, and he's always kind of been the one behind the scenes pushing to make it a real radio station. And getting an FCC license, because we used to have an FCC license back in the day. It got taken away for some reason. I don't even know the story. I kind of wish I did. So he would invite me onto his radio show as a guest to talk about politics, usually because he likes to get political on his radio show. I do not. If you notice, I might touch it a little bit, but I try to avoid that. But that's my day job, is I teach government and political science. And so he would have me on and we'd talk about redistricting and some really nerdy political stuff. And one day I said, hey, man, why don't you just let me pick out like an hour of music of people that are playing around the area, and we'll talk about their music and the shows that they're playing that are coming up. And I did that. And then I woke up the next morning and I was like, what would it take for me to have my own radio show? And he said, just come up here and do it. Just pick a time, commit, and actually do it. And I was like, all right. So we had about a 3-month window when I figured out, and I looked, and noon on Fridays was open. And I was like, that's perfect. I can be done by 2:00. I could be home by 3 when the kids are out of school. So I just decided I was going to do it. And it was super easy. I mean, it couldn't have been any easier than that, I guess.
That's awesome. But you referenced a little bit ago about how, you get to pick the music, which I think is a very cool thing, because you play like country legends songs, but then you might play deeper cuts by those same people, or you play songs for people who are up and coming, who you want people to like hear for the first time. Maybe talk about how much work goes into putting together your playlist every week.
Oh,
and
wow. Yeah.
like is it
Gotta be a
I mean, because I noticed the times I've listened, it's been like you'll pick somebody, you'll say, oh, today's their birthday, or they died on this day, or like you said, you mentioned like when they've been arrested and all kinds of information.
Yeah.
How much time do you spend cultivating the playlist every week for your show?
The playlist alone takes hours.
Yeah.
Of listening to music, looking at who's playing, working social media. That's like the biggest part of it, right? Is if you're finding people that aren't well known, digging into social media and talking to people and seeing who they're following, who they're talking about. But it takes me hours. And for the notes part, because the first part of the show is like the hour of music, I try to talk about each of the songs at least a little bit. And then the second hour, we usually do guest interviews. Typically, again, that could change. Sometimes like here in a couple of weeks, I'll have 2 guests on, and it'll probably be a 3-hour show, and I'll have to just kind of figure out how that goes. But it is a lot of work. But if I had to do this every day, there's no way I could do it to the level or quality that I want it at. But being able to do it once a week gives me the time to kind of work on it. And a lot of the songs actually will roll over. I'll always have more music than I'm going to be able to play. And so if there's 5 or 6 songs I don't play, I just kind of roll that over into the potential songs for next week. And I'll have notes for those already and things like that. So, but I could go deeper into kind of the different ways I find music. But the way I like to layer it is, and it's changed over time, is I like to do like a newer up and coming artist that's playing, and then I'll back that up with a deeper cut, an old school song. And then I'll just try to stagger it like that, 2 songs at a time, so I can talk about each of them.
Because it feels like when I've listened to the show, and like Jason mentioned maybe before the show, that it feels like, you're kind of giving a history lesson, but it's like, you're not just playing songs, you're kind of telling a story, whether you're telling this person's life and then you're transitioning to somebody, who's local or up and coming or whatever. And I think like, that's like, you're not just pushing a button, like there's a lot that goes into it, and you're trying to tell a story with every show.
Yeah. And it always, like, I'll always have a playlist, and it'll get cut down. It's pretty tough for an hour or an hour and 10, 20 minutes. You're not going to get a lot of songs, especially with talking about each of them. You're going to get 10, 12 songs maybe. So it's got to be a pretty damn good song, I feel like, to make the list. And my thing is, I just don't repeat songs. We can talk more about radio promoters and what little I know about that, but like my goal is to not repeat songs. Every show will be different. The only 2 people that are probably going to get replayed is South Texas Tweak and Zach Welch. Like those are the only 2 that I'm going to repeat, because I don't care.
It's funny you posted a story about this episode, and you put Tweak's music on there, and
absolutely.
I was debating on whether I was going to put Tweak's music or Zach Welch's music on the one that I posted.
That's funny. Yeah. Those guys. And one thing that goes in Tweak's favor is he doesn't have a ton of songs out right now. He's working on them. He's in the studio right now, and they'll be here soon. But if I'm going to play Tweak, it's going to be one of those 4 songs,
Yeah. I heard some of those early cuts too already.
Ooh, I'm jealous of that. Yeah.
Also, I have an entire Google Drive of another artist's like 800 million bazillion songs that I just got.
Wow. See, that is the cool thing. That it's got to the point now where I'm actually getting music sent to me right before it's out and get to kind of check it out and listen to it. And maybe it's not the master yet, so you can kind of see how it evolves. I like that.
How often does like the guest kind of give some input on the list? Like, do you ever talk to somebody in advance and go, "Hey, I'm going to have you on"? Like, is there something you want to put out there that like, "Hey, I want people to know about this band," or "This is one of my favorite things growing up," or whatever?
Yeah, that changes too. And I used to do that more. I tried, and now I've kind of gotten back into that some with the guest host, right, with Clayton Smith and Peyton Matus. I just let them pick the whole playlist. I'll pick like 2 songs, right, the first one and then the closer, or maybe 1 or 2 other ones. But early on, that's what I would do. When I was setting up the guest and the date, I would say, "Hey, if you have any friends that are playing music that maybe you're not getting heard that you would recommend, send them my way. Or if you have any ideas." And John Mulcher from the Golden Roses was probably best at that. He sent me a solid list, and I was able to play most of them. But that's also back when I was bringing in, because I was new. Again, I didn't know anything about how it was going to work and had to figure it out. I would bring the guests in at 12 o'clock and make them sit there while I played music for an hour from other people. And then I would interview them. And I was like, okay, this isn't going to work. This is kind of rude and a waste of their time, I felt like. So I started to try to just get the guest for the second hour, but I would still ask them, "Hey, send me music." And a lot of people just wouldn't. I don't know why. Maybe they didn't know who to pick, or they didn't want to pick anybody. Some people would send me some, and that's good. But so what I started doing was looking to see who they were playing shows with. Who were they opening for, or who were they doing song swaps with? And I would kind of work in some of those songs. And so that would help also facilitate some communication, some dialogue. But I've gotten back in. I think doing the guest host and letting people bring in playlists, and doing that at least once every other month or so would be pretty cool.
Very cool. Yeah, you mentioned your first episode was October 8th, 2021. First guest was Zach Welch.
Yes, that's correct.
So how did you meet Zach Welch?
So that is, and this is a story I think about a lot. I probably talked about it on my show a few times, but my first guest was originally going to be South Texas Tweak. So going back to how I got into this, I was hanging out on Twitter, not doing anything radio, hadn't even thought about the idea of radio, and just started seeing people like Rosemond, right? He's one of the first person that pops out, and you kind of, okay, who's this dude? And then Tweak pops out, and I'm starting to see people. And Mason Lively, if y'all are familiar with Mason Lively, he was actually one of my students way back in the day. Probably not that far back in the day, but he was one of my students. And on the first day of class, I had my students introduce themselves, and he was like, "My name's Mason, and I want to be a singer." And I was like, "Oh, cool, man. Good for you." And then a couple years later, I heard his name on the radio on 104.9 The Horn. He was opening for somebody big at Buck's Backyard in Buda. And I was like, okay, I know Mason. I'm going to go watch him play. So I started going out to music, seeing Tweak, seeing Mason Lively. And I was like, I can just get these 2 dudes on my radio show. I can get it going, right? And then I'll just figure it out from there. And so I had it all set up. Tweak was going to be my first guest. Things didn't work out for reasons right out of our control. And so I was just like, what do you do? And Ethan just happened to reach out to me and was like, "Hey, dude, I have an artist that would love to come on your show. It'd be great." And I was like, "Okay, what's his name?" "Zach Welch." I looked at his music. I said, "Send him." And so Zach Welch drove from Forney, Texas, Friday morning, probably left at like 8 o'clock, drove all the way down to San Marcos, down I-35. There they go. I told you, the dogs are going to happen at some point.
The dogs are going to happen.
And yeah, Zach Welch was just willing to just drive 4 hours twice, right? Had to do a round trip to come on a show that had never happened before. And I was like, that's badass, right? And so I'll always have much love for Zach. I'm going to be a Zach Welch fan until the day I die, right? Even if he goes all Johnny Paycheck and gets arrested for weird stuff, I'm still going to dig him,
Well, if he gets arrested for weird stuff, you could talk about it on one of your shows. You'll have all
right.
the yeah.
We could have an in-prison interview over the phone. So yeah, that's how that happened. And then if you listen to that episode, y'all know right at the very end of that episode,
Yeah.
some dude's just walking down the street with a guitar. Because if you don't know, we're right by Fire Station Recording Studio. Massive, big time recording studio where Townes Van Zandt recorded some of his Hill Country Sessions songs. And I mean, big guys have been in there. So he was probably just trying to go over there and run into somebody. But he walks in front of our station and we're like, hey man, you got a guitar? Zach's looking for somebody to be in his band because Zach was looking for like a drummer and some other people. And he was like, you'd be perfect for Zach's band. And he was like, I can play. And he had an electric guitar and he was like, I got an acoustic in my truck. And he went and got it and came back and played. Not a great song, I'm going to be honest. His guitar work was pretty good. His vocals were pretty sloppy. And we'll never probably pull a random stranger off of the street to do a song again.
You learned an important lesson on episode number 1.
Episode 1, yeah.
Like you gotta vet some of these folks before they come on.
But I think it kind of set the stage for the spontaneity. Like I want it to be regimented. I want to have a plan and be prepared, but I want to be open to let weird things happen too, right? And kind of the unexpected. But because I tend to be a little too regimented, right? Or I want to be perfect. And that's why I like having Ray, my co-host, there, because he's completely the other direction, right? So I think he kind of balances it out a little bit when he is there.
Yeah.
And that first show, I mean, your show is live, right? Every Friday. So, I mean, you'd never done radio and you hadn't done a podcast either, right? So this was your first time doing any kind of broadcasting, and the first time you do it is on the air live. What was that? What was that like? Because a lot of people like think they can do things like this, and I'm not saying that everyone can't, but
Right.
it's a lot harder than you think it is. That there's a lot more to it, and I can't imagine the first time doing this being on a live radio station.
Okay,
Like,
well,
here's your 2 hours, go for it. Like
right. But I've also been an online teacher for over 12 years, and so I'm kind of familiar with running a meeting, running a class, having a schedule and a plan, and a little bit of maybe improv and freestyle, along with it. So I just jumped in. I kind of got to the point, right? Because I was like 39 years old, maybe 40 at that point. And I'm just like, what do I have to lose at this point, right? I mean, it's not costing me anything except time and concert tickets, some merch and some beer. There's my some merch right there. So I got to the point where saying no and doing things that are outside of my comfort zone was just not how I wanted to live, right? I wanted to go out, meet people, have fun, enjoy music, enjoy life, and share that with other people, right? That's really cool.
You're kind of a hero amongst the little community that we have here because you're bringing folks on who otherwise wouldn't be, there's not a radio station going to invite me on.
You never know. Co-op radio.
Well, but you talked about like spending money on the merch and the tickets. Like your show, you're putting people on your podcast on the radio station, and you're also showing up for the shows. You're
Absolutely.
showing up in merch. Like you're a big supporter of this little scene, that whatever you want to call it. I don't know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I try to be.
Awesome.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun. Obviously, there are weeks, and almost every week at some point, I'm thinking, why am I doing this? As I'm researching songs or whatever, thinking I should be doing something else. But then I actually do the show, and it goes well, and I have a good time. I get to know people. I get to go see them at shows, and it all pays off. Like this weekend, like Saturday, Sad by Southwest. Like this is going to be ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And if I didn't have a radio show, it would be cool, but it wouldn't be nearly this cool.
We should. Well, it might be too much work and take away from the fun. But I was gonna say we should have some like impromptu conversations there, like we did at Cheatham Street that time.
So we've talked about it. I've talked to Peyton Matus and Matt Moran, and I think Ethan too, about setting up a little table or somewhere where we could record some stuff.
Yeah,
it would be cool. I definitely don't want to miss the the performances, but we could do it in a way where it doesn't have to be me as the host. We could just have random people come up and sit at the microphones and talk.
And just say shit.
Just talk random, just like we did at Cheatham Street, and then just edit it down into a show, weave some songs in there, and boom, you got an episode.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of like a like this is our Twitter fest or whatever you want to call it. Like that's what this basically is.
Yeah, I called it my Woodstock.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't around for Woodstock. But if you look at look at this list, the band Laredo, right? So Clayton's been on TXRiverTonk, Zach's been on, Matt Moran's been on.
Mm-hmm.
I've met True Grit, J.R. Telly's been on. I don't know the Whiskey Outlaws. I've never met those guys or P-Vines, but I'm looking forward to it. I've been trying to get Rosemont on the show since I started this thing. The first episode I ever had, I played Rosemont's song. I've had Seth Jones, you've been on, Peyton's been on. I haven't met James yet. So most of these people have been on TXRiverTonk.
We haven't met him in person either, but he's been on our show.
He's from Chicago, is that correct?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, from that area. We've obviously you've had a lot of these people before we did, but we've had a lot of the same guests. And this lineup here, we've had a lot of these people, Laredo,
right?
Zach, Matt Moran was our first guest. We had Seth, Peyton, James, like we've had J.R. Tully. We've had a lot of these people too. So I was going to ask you about that. Like this really is this little Twitter community or whatever it's called. Now we've never really come up with a great name for it, but it's like, in less than a year, it's like, Jason was motivated to start this podcast. A big reason was because of that community. And now like y'all put on this major show. Like that's pretty crazy. Like this is a big thing, right?
Yeah,
that's go back to what you said, and I'll shut up and let you talk because you're the guest. But I was going to go back to what you said about you deciding to you want it. There's a certain way you want to live your life, and coming out of your comfort zone and doing stuff like this was what it was going to take to be able to live that life that way. That goes back to the reason I'm doing the things that I'm doing too, including this podcast, including playing with all the people that I play with. It's because I decided, and I think I even told you at some point, it's like there's things that I want to get done, things that I want to do in my life, and I'm not going to get it done sitting on my ass at home, playing video games or whatever.
Right. And I'm the kind of person who I don't do well sitting still. I need projects. Right. I need to have a goal. I need to be busy doing things. Otherwise, I'm going to get into trouble. I might as well have a plan for my trouble, and like kind of scout it out. So I definitely dig it. Yeah. So Van is a Danny White fan, is what Greg said. I'm trying to look at the comments here to see what's going on.
Yeah, was that a Danny White jersey he had on? Because
I don't think so.
It was a number 11 though. Drew Bledsoe wore number 11 for the Cowboys. If it's a Cowboys shirt, was it a Cowboys shirt?
It was Cowboys number 11.
Oh, it's the current guy. It's the linebacker. What's his name?
I thought it was Diggs. It might be Diggs. No, Diggs is. I don't know. I bought him a couple, so I don't know.
They have linebackers number 11 now, but yeah.
He's gonna go to his first Cowboys game this coming season.
Oh, wow.
That's the plan.
Have you already got it picked out which game and everything?
Not yet. I don't think so. I think the draft is next weekend, and then the schedule will come out after that, right?
Yeah.
So my dad, my brother, and I, we have a tradition. We go to one Cowboys game a year. So they're in Lubbock. We meet in Dallas. We've been doing this for, I think, 17, 18 years. And so the goal is to watch every single team come through Cowboys Stadium.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So we're over halfway through the league. So one game a year.
Yeah, Justin can talk to you about sports ball stuff.
Yeah, Greg had it. It's Micah Parsons. I just couldn't think of
Micah Parsons.
Yeah,
that's the one.
I could see him, but I couldn't think of the name because it's not football season. I'm locked into baseball and.
Oh yeah, college baseball is my deal.
Are y'all following pickleball? That's where it's at. That's the hottest sport in the world. Okay.
I'll play it, but I won't follow.
Yeah,
it.
I know. I play it a little bit too, but.
No, but sports radio, like again, going back to how I got into radio, why I do this.
Yeah,
I've always liked radio and music. Right, it's always been a thing in my life. I grew up in the country, literally 5 miles outside of a town that was 30 miles outside of Lubbock. Mm-hmm. And back when we had like 4 television channels and the radio and tapes, and that's all you had. Right? Like music was a big deal. I remember when Nintendo came around, I liked video games, but music was always a big deal. My mom would always play music when I was in the car. Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, Michael Bolton, unfortunately. And my brother was 4.5 years older than me. And so he would always introduce me to like the good stuff, right? Well, before I should probably be there, I remember walking around my Fisher Price little tape player jamming Beastie Boys, and having a Dr. Feelgood poster on my wall when I was way too young to have a Dr. Feelgood poster. Right. And my parents kind of let me explore music and never really put too many restrictions on that type of stuff until I got later when like Dr. Dre The Chronic comes out, then that got squashed. But I've always liked music and always liked radio. I moved to Austin and I worked as a caterer on the UT campus in 2000. So this is before streaming. Napster was coming around, but it wasn't there yet. I wasn't walking around with an iPod. And so we would listen to the radio at work. And so I would put on KUT, and John Ailey had a show on KUT, if you're familiar with Austin radio, called Eclecticos. Mm-hmm. And he was like an Austin music icon going back to the 70s. He got a piano scholarship to go to UT, couldn't pay the tuition, or it would only cover tuition. So he didn't have enough to pay for the hotel or the apartment. So he started working at a radio station in Killeen, Texas, and earning money so he could go to UT. And he was actually the person who informed the citizens of Killeen that JFK had been assassinated. Right. And so then he comes to Austin and starts this show called Eclecticos in the late 60s, 70s. And so I get there and it's just this man who's so crazy, and he has no care for genres. He'll play any type of music, folk music, world music. And I just kind of got my mind blown with music. And then also being in Austin, being able to see live music was where it's at. That's kind of what me and my wife, what brought us together and took us out, as we would go watch bands play. We'd watch Eric Tessmer down on 6th Street, or we'd go watch Gary Clark Jr. play a free happy hour show at Austin Continental Club when he's 18, 19 years old. And it was just like, this is amazing. And we started going to concerts all the time. And so I just love music, love radio. I'm a big sports radio fan. So listen to a ton of podcasts. And so I was listening to people like Thomas Mooney, who has New Slang. He's out of Lubbock, kind of just covers the Lubbock scene. I was listening to Aaron Bentley with Off Mic, Off the Record, Hymns on the Highway, Hippies and Cowboys, Keeker and Ferg. And I was like, I could do this. This isn't that hard. So I think those guys, all those shows and all those inputs kind of just helped me think, hey, this is doable, and worth doing. Right.
I think so. One of the things I think we talked a little bit about, that like you're capturing, you're getting into kind of all the things that those other guys do with the conversations with musicians, but it's also all this music that you bring into it that a lot of people haven't heard, and the histories behind the music that they haven't heard, and then bringing in the playlist and playing the songs of the folks you at some point or another end up having as a guest. Mm-hmm. I think that definitely makes you stand out, and hence the reason I called you, the greatest podcast radio show.
That's again, I'll take it. I don't know if I believe it, but I'll definitely take it. But yeah, looking back, I was looking at the playlist for my first episode. It was Mike and the Moon Pies, Jesse Daniel, Tweet, Rosemond, Golden Roses, Joshua Ray Walker, and like half of those people have been on the show at this point. And to see that kind of happen is really cool. I know I tweeted about it, right? About when I got the email from Jesse Daniel that said he was going to come on the show. Yeah. I've been doing it for like 5 weeks, and I'll just send him an email, right? This is how it happens, right? You either go to shows and meet people in person, you talk to them online, or you email them, right? And it just kind of starts to come together. And Jesse Daniel was a big one. And then Joshua Ray Walker is next, Dallas Burrow, Tony Camel, Bree Bagwell recently. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous when I sit back and think about it. And when I just start scrolling through the episodes and looking at the guests that have been on, it's pretty wild.
How far in advance do you kind of book people, or is it just kind of hit, or is it like, do you kind of book four or five at once, and then maybe it's week to week after that, or do you kind of have a plan for a long like a long range booking schedule?
I stopped trying to book too far out just because musicians are very finicky people with schedules that are crazy, and you never know what's going to happen. So I try to just be flexible.
Yep.
And I've gotten to the point where I'll be like, hey, if somebody cancels on me, it's okay not to have a show this week. I don't have to have a show every week. Or if somebody wants to come in on a Thursday, I have enough flexibility at the station that there are windows I can record outside of my normal 12 to 2. So right now I'm probably booked out. All of May is booked. June's probably pretty wide open. So I'm about 6 weeks out. And I think that's a pretty safe range. I do have some people booked further out. Like Matt Moran, he's going to be in town with a bunch of friends in July. So I have that booked out, but that's probably the only date in July. I've got Derek McClendon in October because he's playing a show, I think, in New Braunfels. And so there's a few people that I'll, if I know them, I'll put them way out if they reach out to me. But the problem is a lot of artists won't reach out to me until like 2 weeks before. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm booked, you know? Yeah. I've had a few people not show up. That's pretty rare. I'm surprised that more people haven't shown up or actually canceled, because getting musicians, especially traveling musicians, is tough. So I try not to get too many traveling musicians. I try to have a pretty good number of local artists that I know live within an hour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's a lot of people that I have probably that I could call on at this point and be like, hey man, I have an opening on this Friday. Would you be willing and able to come in? And so there's some people that I have just kind of ready to go.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Have you, not that I want you to name any names, but have you had to turn anybody down?
I don't know if I've ever like just straight up said, no, I won't have you on. Right. I like to keep the door open.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I'll just say like, I don't have a time yet. Right. But there's been some people, I don't like all music. I like a lot of music, but I'm not going to have somebody on that I don't like.
Right.
And how do you finesse that is not because I want to be a nice person. Right.
Yeah.
That's one thing I get from John Ailey, right? He was crazy and weird, but he was just a genuine guy, seemed like a nice dude. And that's one thing I just try to just be myself, be nice and appreciative of artists and their time and their art. I'm not trying to crap on anybody. But there's probably some people that I shouldn't have on. Right. Not every song gets played.
Right. Yeah.
So Blake, I have a real serious question here, two-parter. So what was your favorite interview and why was it Jason?
Why was it Jason? Jason's really good. That was a good one. That was the Halloween episode too, I believe. That was not my favorite episode because he did not play fiddle as I requested.
He did ask for fiddle, and you know what? I think didn't we book it originally and then I had to cancel?
I canceled. I think.
Or you had to cancel.
I got COVID or something. Yes.
Yeah, that's what it was. I was gonna come with Russell, and Russell was gonna play guitar. Because I'm not one of those fiddle players who can play fiddle and sing at the same time. I'm actually starting to do it a little bit, but I couldn't do it by myself. So
yeah, I get that. I appreciate that too. Do it when it's right. It'll happen for sure. My favorite interview, I don't know. That's a crazy one because they're also different. If I know the person, it's always great, right? If I know if it's like Tweak or Derek McClendon, somebody that I know makes it better. But one of the coolest ones was Joshua Ray Walker, right? I mean, that had to be at the top of the list because he was just about to go play Jimmy Fallon, right? He was like on his come up, you know?
Yeah.
And he did the same thing as Zach, except he was playing a show in New Braunfels that night at Freiheit, but he had somebody drive him from Dallas, dropped him off at the radio station at like 1:00. He did the interview, and that's when we had that weird sound. I don't know if you've listened to that episode, the squeaky sound that would come up every once in a while. And he's like looking around like, what the hell is going on here, right? And I'm just like, just give it a minute, right? It'll go away. But we do the interview, and he kills it, right? He does a acoustic version of "Sexy After Dark," right? And I'm just like, okay, this is badass. And then afterwards, it's 2:00, and he's like, I don't have anything to do until I play at 8 or 9 o'clock tonight. And I was like, you want to go get some lunch? I'll buy you lunch So we go get some lunch, hang out, drink some beers. And I'm like, you need a ride to the venue? Sure, I'll take a ride to the venue. So I drive him to New Braunfels, and we basically just hang out until Rod Gator plays. Rod Gator opens up for him in New Braunfels. And if you listen to the episode I did with Rod Gator's like, yeah, that's too country for me out of New Braunfels. He said, them boys, right? And a fight did break out that night. But so I just basically got to hang out with Joshua Ray Walker for most of the day. And I mean, you can't really beat that. That was really cool. There's some other stories I probably shouldn't tell, but that's the ones that
tell
that
them.
get
Come on, let's hear
told
them.
on air.
Let's hear them.
No. There was a fight. That's all I'll talk about. And it went to
show.
It was at the show. It was, and again, this is like a country place, right? It was just drunk dudes, and so I'm getting ready to leave, and I look over to my truck, and there's 2 cop cars right by my truck, and I'm like, I guess I'm not leaving anytime soon, and so I'm just hanging out at the bar, making new friends. And Josh and them take off, and I just kind of had to sit back and wait for the heat to reside so I could leave. But that's about all I'll get into there. I was not involved in the fight. It was not me.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, it sounds like a lot of your takeaways, a lot of I think what Justin and I take away from some of this too is we really just get a chance to have like a fan experience in a lot of ways, like, and some of the folks, especially Justin, probably way more Justin than me, but, Justin may not know who they are until I'm like, okay, we're going to book this person, but we haven't had a miss yet. Like,
oh yeah,
like every person we've booked on this show, has had great music. And so we just kind of get to hang out and talk to this person. And I don't think we've had anybody yet that's been like probably the biggest profile would be Jaret. But that's like a fan experience for me, like every week. So.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I've listened to probably more than half of the episodes. I haven't gotten to all of them yet, but I've listened to most of them, especially the people that I know, right? I'll typically go to those first. But I did really like that the show y'all did with Mason Server, right? Mason's such a cool guy.
Yeah.
He's got the energy too, right? You can tell he's passionate about it,
And
so that's cool.
And I mentioned it to him on the podcast and in person too. Like he's just got this like, he's got the energy. He wants to be engaged with the conversation, but he also is very open-minded about like whatever you're talking about. And he'll talk about anything, but like whatever you're talking about, he'll acknowledge, like he'll say whatever he's going to say about it. And then he'll like immediately acknowledge that like there's some other perspective on it. And he's aware of that.
Right. Very thoughtful about it.
He might actually be the most, well, I don't know. I don't know about your like what degrees you might have, but he's got 2 degrees. He's got like a master's in, what did he say he had in history or something?
It was he said bachelor in philosophy and master in history.
Master's in history.
I've got him matched at least. We'll say that. I got
go.
Sociology and political science. But he just reminds me of home, right? He sounds like Lubbock when he talks.
Right.
He's got that Lubbock accent. And so I like just to hear him talk too. That's cool. But y'all were talking about radio promoters and like, what do they do? How does that work from a radio show perspective? And it's gotten to the point where I've started to communicate with a few of them. And basically, I just get emails every week, right? It's like, hey, these are the songs that we're pushing. This is kind of where they're at in the charts. Here's a brief description about what, the background behind the song and maybe who plays on the song. So they're just like pushing certain songs, right? And they'll send wave links or MP3 links sometimes. And they're just trying to get, their artists out there and get them interviews, right? I've started to get some interviews set up that way just for people reaching out to us, where before it was me having to go and just seek people out. So that makes it easy. And they usually have like a stable of people, right? So if it goes well with one artist, they'll probably have somebody else that's coming to town that might want to stop by too.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. But I think for me, like my model doesn't really fit what they're looking for.
Right.
They'll get the interview and I'll play some songs and I'll promote shows, but I'm not going to play the same song every week. I'm not a top 10 radio show.
Yeah.
I'm like a bottom 10 radio show. Like they're not bottom 10 in quality. They're just not ranked. They're not getting streams or playtime.
Oh, you're like you said, you're not even trying to play the same thing over in your own
Right.
show.
Mhm.
Like, I wonder, like, so you're getting, so is it just like, does it feel like it's like a, like a mass email type thing, or do you feel like they've targeted you and they're reaching out to you specifically,
I think
or
they just amass like an email list of all the radio station
places?
people
Yeah.
that might be open to that. It's kind of like a politician or somebody would have like a list serve or whatever.
Yeah. And they
So
probably, especially with the interviews, they're probably trying to target it to areas that the artist is going to be in already, I would think.
I don't get many of them. There's just a few that I get,
Yeah.
and most of the stuff that's on there is good. But like if they'll send me an artist that I know that's been on the radio show, then I'll look and see who else they're working with, and I'll listen to some of their songs and see if they're coming to town. So I think Johnny Friendo, right? Remy May came on the radio show, and I looked, and the same team that's working with her had Johnny Friendo, and I listened to him, and he was great. He opened up for Dallas Burrows Saturday at Hotel Turkey, and my mom went up and watched him and Dallas Burrow at Hotel Turkey this weekend.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Getting my mom out to shows and getting some friends out to shows, right? That's really cool. That's what it's about. Listening and streaming, buying a T-shirt. I mean, that's cool, but going and watching people live is really the end goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's how they. I mean, that's how they're making money. I mean, I'm sure there are other sources of revenue for artists that I have not been around. I know there are, obviously, but the only thing I know about how to make money in this business is to play those shows and sell shit.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So, but yeah, that Hotel Turkey, that's a place that's been brought up a lot of times, and I've never been out. There's nothing else out there, right?
There's not much out there, no.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go stop in Lubbock. Amarillo's not too far north. I mean, you're probably an hour and a half from Lubbock, right? And probably an hour and a half from Amarillo. So, I mean, it's not someplace you're just going to kind of drive. It is out of the way.
Right.
It's not just right on the highway.
It's weird how some of those places in this kind of, like in this little community, get like this stature or whatever of like it's like the Gage Hotel,
right
out in Marathon. Have you ever been out there?
I haven't been in Marathon. I haven't spent time there, but I've actually stayed in Fort Stockton. I've stayed in Sonora. I've been to Marfa for a couple of nights, and I've spent a week in Big Bend.
Man, that was a surreal experience. We went out there to so I went in December. I went with Tweak out like on a West Texas trip.
Hell
and
yeah.
I told Justin, like, when I'm telling people where I'm from, I've always said I'm from West Texas because technically that's where we are from, but that's West Texas. That's like, Southwest Texas, like
completely different.
Yeah, we're like Central West Texas or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like literally like 15 miles or something from Mexico. But yeah, you go out there and it's the weirdest thing. It's like a surreal experience. Like we played at the Gage Hotel and woke up the next morning and went across the street to this French, I think it's the French Cafe or something like that.
Nice.
It was a Sunday morning, and they had a Sunday morning gospel type brunch thing, and they had like 20 people out there playing banjos and upright bass and just singing songs, and it was just like, and they call it gospel, but it was it's just old country songs, old country bluegrass folk type songs,
right?
Like a whole bunch of people out there eating and whatever, and it was this big communal thing. It's just a strange, surreal experience going out there.
Well, I think that's what Turkey is because they're out in the middle of nowhere, and so they kind of just everybody that's anywhere near just gravitates toward that one place, and music is big in that area, right? And the Llano Estacado and the flatland up there. I know my grandmother used to travel. Like there would be traveling musicals, and they would be in different towns. Every weekend, they would just rotate towns, and you would drive to whatever town that they were in to go watch the band play.
Yeah.
And my grandmother would go dance and, have a good time. So I guess in Turkey, there's just not a lot of places you can drive to that are close enough. So it all just happens right there.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And I recommend getting up there and staying at Hotel Turkey. for at least one night. 2 would be better. But
Yeah. I feel like that's in my future at some point.
you should do it. I mean, it's definitely worth the drive. I looked, and it's only like 8-9 hours from where I'm at, so it's doable in a day.
So Blake, you do your show in downtown San Marcos. And speaking of venues, are there any venues in San Marcos that maybe try to hook up with you to try to maybe, promote their shows or promote their people? Or
I wish. There's one. Yeah, I mean, it's surprising. Like I've reached out to, if you know San Marcos, the biggest country and western venue in San Marcos, and asked them, hey, would you love to, work with me and run some ads on the radio show? And no reply, like no email response. Talk to them in person, not interested. Right. So it's just like, whatever. So I haven't really tried any other venues. I know there's one right around the corner is the Porch, which is a cool spot, but they don't do a lot of country. They have some country, but that's not what they do. I think Zach Welch would fit in perfect there because he's weird, right, and different, and it's not your typical country, and it's rowdy. And so I think, but for a lot of the artists, they're just probably not the right fit. San Marcos doesn't have a ton of country places. That's Austin, right? It's like Sagebrush is where it's at.
Yeah.
That's something we talked about a lot on this show is the people that we've had on. And obviously it's the same people you've had on for the most part. To me, someone like, I didn't grow up listening to country music, and I don't even consider myself a country music fan. I'm a fan of the bands that we've had on, and a lot of these people, like, their music is great. I've been blown away by it. But like, to me, it doesn't check the box of country. It's just kind of music that's like, it kind of sounds rock. It has like some country stuff, but I mean, they have a fiddle here and there, but to me, like, it's kind of unique, and it's kind of, I don't know if you call it Americana or whatever, but I feel like the band Laredo is a rock band to me.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think Zach Welch is kind of a rock star kind of personality, like, I don't think they really fit like, Clint Black or Garth Brooks or George Strait from the 90s kind of country music that I think of when someone says country music. That's what I think of, are those kind of people. And the people we've had on the show certainly are not in that, they don't sound like that. They sound more like Bowling for Soup than they do those kind of people. No, they do. Yeah.
No, it's right.
I think it's because we're at the point now where like all the kids who grew up on metal and punk and rock are now making country-ish music, and it's got so much of a melding pot that it's just, I mean, and we don't have to worry about genres anymore. I mean, you could, I try to just, and I think my show has gotten more diverse. I used to be pretty straight honky tonk, pretty country when I first started. And then over time, I've kind of gotten a little funkier, right? The Austin and the rock that's happening is just kind of trickled in, and I'm okay with that. And I'll have some shows that are a little more rocky. I'll do it on purpose. I'll have like, this is going to be kind of a funky bluesy show. And then I'll kind of come back to the country stuff. Like this next episode is going to be pretty straight country. Right. I'm working on that playlist because Tweak's coming in for our 69th episode.
Of course he is.
Yes.
Of course he is. Why
Celebrate
would he show
style.
up for, why would he
Pantera.
show up for any other one? Yeah.
Yeah. So he texted me like a couple months ago. Honestly, I've had to kind of figure this one out. He was like, I want to be on the 69th episode. And I was like, absolutely. That's doable. And I was trying to guess.
I have to delay a show or something.
I did.
So we can
I'm not
make
going to
sure.
lie. I didn't have a show last week because if I'd have had a show, that would have been 69. So I just didn't do a show.
Shit. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
So it's cool. And it's like I get a week off, and that's awesome.
It's funny. I've tried to have him come on this show, but we're completely online. And
he said he doesn't want to do that.
he didn't want to do it online, and I haven't. I could do like, I have enough stuff here where I could have somebody come and join me, but it's just there's never a Thursday. I mean, sorry, I'm thinking
Tuesday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
There's never a Tuesday night when Tweak's going to be in the Austin area. Like, very rarely is that. Like, we've talked about it several times, but we just can never line it up.
Right.
But that dude has such a big personality. Like, it's just you can talk to him for a few minutes and you can see this dude is like, he's destined for stardom. Like, he's just, I mean, his presence on stage when he performs, the songs are so good, and he's just like such a I don't know how to say it. Like, just like when you meet him, it's like you've known him forever.
Right. It's like your cousin or something.
Yeah, right.
Is what it is. So I think it's going to be him and Chris Seymour, because Seymour's, I think, put out a song today. And again, I got to listen to that one early. Really good song, Chris Seymour. So they're both going to be in. I've been trying to get Tweak to bring in his brother DC and Austin Starkey, the steel player, because I think that would be a cool conversation. But I don't know what's going to happen. Who knows who's going to show up with Tweak or not show up with Tweak.
Yeah, we're all a part of the Beer Run Bandits.
Absolutely. You should come Friday.
I told him the other day, because he hits me up about shows, and they posted a picture the other day where they all got armadillo tattoos, and I was like, dude, I'm jealous. I didn't get an armadillo tattoo.
I'm going to get one and not tell them, just show up one day. Yeah.
Hey, look.
Yeah. But they're playing Copperhead Club off Riverside Friday night, so it kind of works out. So I waited till he had a gig in town. We could kind of line that date up. It worked out pretty good. So Friday night, Copperhead Club, if you're in Austin, would be a good place to be. And then I got other people coming up too. Golden Roses are coming up.
Yeah. On
May 5th, they have an EP release that they're putting out with Feel So Good Records, and they're having a big party on that Saturday on the 6th. So that'll be fun. I got some people coming in from Tennessee, May 19th, David Gideon and Kelsey Ray. They're doing like a Texas tour. And they're going to be playing Manchac Spring that night, right down the road from me, like literally 7 minutes from my house. So it's pretty cool that I can have people come on the show and then afterwards go actually watch them play a show.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And then on the 26th of May, I have a special surprise, full band in studio.
Oh, wow.
I don't think I'm going to disclose that one yet. That's a little bit of a teaser, but they are playing Cheatham Street the night before. So if you can figure that out. Do some Dick Tracy detective work.
What
there.
date is it?
So they're coming on my show May 26th. If you look at Cheatham Street, that's not on the website yet, but they would be playing Cheatham Street the 25th.
I'm trying to figure out if I'm playing Cheatham Street.
I think you might.
I think I might be.
I think you might be too.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So this one's been in the works for a long time, right? So July is pretty wide open. So if anybody wants to come on the show in July, that's pretty much wide open. Yeah. June too. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I like doing this.
You it's funny because you just listed off like your guests, but like there's not a place to go to see like who your upcoming guests are.
I stopped doing that, honestly, because again, I have had a couple of people cancel, or I've had to cancel, and so I've tried to wait until the morning of or the day before to announce it. I think one time I did put out like, hey, this is the up and coming artist, and then one of them backs out, and so now it's kind of like, okay,
yeah.
So and you see that more and more. Like big bands are going to have their website with all their upcoming dates, but a lot of people that I see that are local up and coming bands, they don't do that. They posted the day of or the day before, hey, or maybe the week of at best.
Yeah,
it's just kind of the age we live in, a short memory and attention span.
Yeah, I think part of that is probably like, who goes to a website anymore?
I would prefer to, yeah.
Well, yes, but like these folks are having any kind of advertisement that they're getting. It's not coming from their website. They're having to get on social media and say stuff,
exactly,
and they have to say it at a certain time of day and say it 5 times before noon or whatever it is, so that they can get that message in front of somebody. And it's probably not worth a lot. I mean, a lot of them don't even have websites, or if they do, they don't keep them up to date. So
yeah. That's true. That's one thing. Having them up to date is a big deal for somebody like me who's looking for shows.
Right.
But I'll spend a lot of time on artist websites. Yeah. Reading bios or looking at tour dates. Yeah, for sure. Ton of time.
For a lot of people, I think it's probably better to at least have like a link tree or something where all your social media, because that's how most people are engaging with them anyway, is on social media, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. So, but yeah, I do prefer a website if I can, because like you, Blake, I do the same thing. Jason books these shows, and I'm like, okay, I need to look this person up and find out all the information about them and who's in the band and when they formed, all that kind of good stuff. And it helps when they have a website. But
right, yeah, for sure.
But I understand. Like, we don't have a website ourselves. We have our YouTube channel. We have we're on Spotify, we're on all these different platforms, but we don't have like a main hub besides, I guess, YouTube is our main place.
Yeah,
But
I don't have a website either. I actually bought the TexasRiverTonk.com domain like a year ago and never set it up, but I just bought it just to have it. But I don't really see a need for it. The radio station is in the process of getting an FM license from the city. So we're going FM terrestrial broadcasting soon. And so we're remaking the entire KZSM website, because if you've been to the KZSM website, it's not great, right? It has a lot to be desired. So we're revamping hopefully redoing the studio, going FM, redoing all the website. So if you want to come on the show again, hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, just message me and say, hey, do you have any dates open? And we can figure something out if you don't suck. And if you can't come on the show, you just can't make it to San Marcos, you can email the radio station. Just go to the website, kzsm.org, and the email is kzsmsanmarcos@gmail. Just email a song file. Yeah. Go to KZSM, go to contact, email us a file, an MP3 or WAV file, and we have a radio library that we curate, and we can just put your song in there. And we do throughout the day if there's not a live show, because we're at the point where we don't have live shows 24 hours a day. We do a lot of encore episodes, or we'll play music blocks. And I've started to put together like 20-minute music blocks, and we can do that if you send us music. So that'd be cool. And we're always looking for, again, guests, but if you are in the San Marcos area, we're looking for hosts, people to have a radio show. If you want to do this and play, the music that you want to hear, let us know. Come in and we'll figure it out.
Justin, I think he's inviting us to come be hosts.
You could have a radio show. You could just do your podcast from San Marcos.
That's it.
Jason's seen how awesome the studio is.
Hey, you know what? I was going to mention this earlier because you said you were accustomed to, like, you got into it because you were accustomed to like running meetings and stuff. But there are buttons and stuff, Blake.
I screw up every show. Greg knows that. Greg made a game out of it. Maybe I made a game out of it, because I'm going to mispronounce somebody's name every episode. That's going to happen. I'm going to screw somebody's name up. And I'm just...
Oh, that's right. What was it? Joshua Ray Walker and somebody else, another 3-name person.
Jacob Ryan Marshall.
That's
what it was. Yeah. And I think it was Peyton Matus was like, no, I think it's Ryan Marshall. And I'm like, damn it. And I like Jacob. Jacob's such a cool dude, man.
Yeah.
I could forgive myself for screwing up a lot of people's names, but that one hurt. I had to text him and just let him know. I didn't mean it.
I messed your name up.
Yeah. I told him, I said, hey, man, if you listen, my bad. I fucked that up.
So, Blake, we had a question from Greg Johnson. He says, what was
up?
your favorite song played live on the show? Bet I Know.
Wow, that one's tough. Yeah, so I think he's probably going to say No Motorcycles and No Tattoos. That was good.
Yeah.
Derek McClendon wrote that song based on a conversation that we had, and my mom was there when he sang it, and then my mom gave him a quilt live on air, which was really cool. So that was probably the most special one. Zach Welch will always, just because I think Drunken Ramblings might have been the first song ever played on Texas River Tonk. I know it was on the first episode, so that song is kind of my theme song at this point. But yeah, Jesse Daniels, Dallas Burrow, those guys, just incredible. And the fact that they were even willing to come on, still kind of hard to believe, but right.
So you mentioned about having the domain name Texas River Tonk. I want to know about just the name itself. It's a cool handle, a cool name. How did you come up with that?
I was working through a couple different versions, but I wanted to have river in it, and I wanted to have Texas, and I wanted to have Tonk. And so it kind of became apparent, and I sent it to some people with like Texas spelled out.
Yep. And
they were like, yeah. And like, in the kind of day and age we live in with like the SoundCloud rappers and all the, like having like a weird kind of one word name.
Texas River Tonk 69.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I kind of regret, because if you Google it, it doesn't really come up. It's pretty underground, right? It's kind of hard to find, and I'm okay with that, I guess.
Is it because it's all together? Is that why you think it's hard to find? Or because
Yeah, because I think if people are going to search for it and they try to type out Texas River Tongue, you'll probably run into the radio station, but you're not going to find it is kind of difficult to find. And I kind of like that. I kind of don't care at this point. It is what it is.
I think you're good on the name. I think there's not going to be another Texas River Tonk popping up that you have to worry about competing with the names, and it's perfect for you and what you do.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I spend a lot of time on the river, right? That's my favorite thing to do.
Right. Every pretty much every episode there's some mention of I was listening to what was I listening to? The one from last week, I guess, and you were talking about driving past the river. It's like this is the time of year when you've got to have a bathing suit in your trunk.
You have to, dude. On my way to the river, I drive through the campus, and if you've ever been to the Texas State campus, there's a big park right there. Mm-hmm. Where all the students hang out in their bathing suits. And so not a better place to be, honestly.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
It's funny. I used to spend a lot of time at the river, but it was a long time ago. And I with my kids and everything, we never go down there anymore.
Oh, that's when you got to go. So we bought a camper a few years ago. We got a little RV
my
that we
kids are
just
ridiculous though.
Drag down to the river and make them go.
Yeah.
But my oldest
Maybe I'll go down there with you with your RV.
Let's do that. Let's go.
I got throw the kids in the RV because they don't want to get in the river. For
sure. But what else that was something else I wanted to talk about. Oh, Ghost Note. Yeah, Ghost Note has a big event this Saturday. They're having their Blues, Brews, and Bugs Festival. So I can't say enough good things about Ghost Note, right? Not only do they support the show, which I appreciate, but they're really good people, right? And I've become friends with them. And really support what they do. They make great beer. I haven't had a bad beer from there. And they always have great music. So if you want to go out to Dripping Springs on Saturday, they're going to have music all day. I think it starts at 4.
Is this the one with, was it Van Wilkes?
Van Wilkes.
Yeah.
Yes. Big name. If you don't know who Van Wilkes is, just Google Van Wilkes. Talking ZZ Top and the Big Dogs.
Right. This is a big one for them. Then it's like how many bands they got?
I think at least 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Sam Pace is really good. If you haven't heard Sam Pace, he's really tall dude, deep voice. He sounds like when I walked up, I swear I was going to see a black dude, but this is a white guy with just the bluesiest voice you've ever heard.
Yeah.
David Orr Band, really good. Going to be out there. Vin Mott and several other people. So
those guys, they are also very genuine supporters of music. It's interesting because there's a lot of breweries that have they have music, and it's actually not that uncommon for the folks who it. It kind of feels like those places put music in there just because they love music. Because most of the experiences I've had with people booking places, booking
for breweries,
shows at breweries, it's kind of like that. But I remember because I reached out to them. I don't remember why. Maybe it was something. Maybe it was because of your show. I don't know. I can't remember. But no, it was because of Clay's band, Brave Little Hell.
Oh yeah, that was a great show. Oh
yeah. But I sent them an email, and then they were like, they emailed me back, said we put your song on our playlist already, and you show up and they treat you like you're somebody, right. You know what I mean? Like they listen, and it's a big deal for them. They like the music,
I mean, they've got it made. The property is beautiful, all right? And they basically make their own beer and get to jam out every weekend. I mean, that sounds perfect. If they just had like a little fishing pond back there, I'd try to move in.
If they moved a little closer to the river, maybe.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. If they were in San Marcos, it'd be on Martindale. Martindale's where it's at.
Yeah. I've only been there once, and that was to see
Matt Moran.
Matt Moran, yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool show, man. I can't wait till this weekend.
Yeah, speaking of Matt, he's the one that put together the show, correct? Let's talk about that one more time. The lineup for that. Sad by Southwest. It's at Lola's in Fort Worth. Jason, you played that place recently, right?
I did. Just this past Friday, I was there.
What do you think about Lola's?
Time.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I don't know if we're going to be in the inside stage or the outside. They have two stages. I don't know what the weather's going to be like also, but it was pretty awesome this past Friday. It's been great lately, right? So
whoa. Dude, I'm telling you.
The dogs are hyped. They can't wait.
Dude.
But it's a cool place. Their outside stage is got like, it's a big enough place for like a big crowd. I have no idea what the crowd's going to be like, but I know there's going to be a bunch of friends there.
Oh,
we're
dude.
just going to be, like we're all going to, like some of us are going to be seeing each other for the first time, but we're already friends,
Dude, that happened when I went to see True Grit at Independence Brewing. I walked up to him and we like hug each other. Never met each other before in real life, but he's like, "What's up?" Shake hands and just give a hug. It's just like it's a weird
Man,
world,
it's a
dude.
vibe.
Yeah.
It's a vibe that you give off, right? But it's also a vibe like, this little scene, it's like positivity.
Absolutely.
You don't see anybody trashing anybody else. Like it's all badass. And that True Grit band is fucking badass too.
The
Like,
funniest,
holy crap.
they are badass. The funniest thing is like I posted a little short clip of them jamming out and playing Stranger, and that's the tweet that's got the most likes ever for me was a hardcore
really?
band. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a hardcore band coming
Yeah.
from Texas RiverTonk.
Yes.
That's great.
It was all. So did you say there's 2 stages or is there just one outdoor
There's 2
stage?
stages, so I don't have no idea what the setup is. Well, I saw on the thing like the doors open at 3 or something like that.
I think
so
4
we
o'clock.
better get our sound checks and stuff done quick, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
I'm pretty
checking.
much gonna have my shit on stage like for the whole time. I'm just gonna whoever wants me to play fiddle with them, I'm just gonna get up there and play.
Good call. Yeah, so I'll get there. I check into the hotel at 3, so I'll try to get to town around 1 or 2. Find some food.
Yeah.
But I got
to get there.
a buddy driving in from Amarillo to meet me, and then a buddy driving up from Houston to meet me.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be cool.
I don't know what time I'm gonna get there. I know I'm gonna crash on Clayton's couch.
Oh, good for you.
It's like, yeah, I just that's pretty much what I try to do is find some place to just sleep for free.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I thought about asking Zach. I don't know how far he lives though. I didn't want to burden anybody.
I don't either though. Last time I was there, they were in the 601 house and they moved out.
Yeah, that's a cool house. I didn't get to go check out the studio. I just hung out in the sun deck, kind of out by the garage.
I mean, that's the best part of it. So
That's the best part.
You were in the best place.
So y'all don't know set times or anything like that yet, do y'all? Haven't figured that out.
Kind of. I think
Roughly.
it's like I have to look at it, but I'm pretty sure me and Peyton and I can't remember who else are gonna pretty much start off. The set times had to get adjusted based on because James is flying in for this thing.
Right, that's true.
So
How do you say his last name? Is it James Guetta?
Guetta.
Yep.
Guetta, cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking for it. I've been listening to his stuff. I actually made a playlist of all the artists. There's at least 2 songs of every artist that is on the playlist. It's kind of randomized and curated a little bit, and it's about an hour and 40 minutes. So I've been jamming that.
You know what's cool is, and I should like sneak you into this email chain, right?
Yeah,
But
do that.
We haven't done it in a while, but we've started this email chain of us. Let's see, it's me, Clayton. Who else is in it? It's James, Zach,
Peyton.
Cade Anson is on there. I can't even remember all the ones. There was another one that we took out because he wasn't participating. But anyway, we were just we start a songwriting prompt, and then just everybody writes a stupid song. Some of them's been really good. Some of them are really good.
Yeah, or
James,
at least pieces can be good.
man,
right?
James wrote a good one. And there's some lines about asking whether or not I should probably not say it, but anyway, it's like, man, he wrote a good one.
Well,
Yeah.
James has a very unique voice. Like he should be a voiceover actor or something.
Yeah.
And also that Rosaline song he has is awesome. So definitely
right.
check out that one. That's a
He
great one.
does.
What do you call that? A baritone? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he should be doing like the movie kind of stuff. Like this
Yeah.
summer. Like
He needs to do some commercial ad voiceovers for Texas
exactly.
RiverTonk. Yeah.
well, no, and Blake, I was gonna ask you about that because you
Mhm.
get to do ad reads. Like that's pretty cool. I think like I know, like for never having done radio, like you sound very professional, and your ad reads are good. They're good, man.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it started out. They've gotten better for sure,
Yeah.
right? But I used to like put a blanket over my head and my laptop to kind of create a little, but it sounded kind of muffled.
Isolation.
So I tried one in my closet. I tried one in my daughter's room because she always has clothes everywhere, you know,
Yep.
so it's kind of muffled. But I found the best audio is just using my phone. Honestly,
Yeah.
I just have a voice app and I just record it. I'll like go in my truck and close the doors and just have no sound and try to get it like a little studio. And I just do that. And then I've learned to kind of to lay over and put music in the background. And I'll just ask friends, hey, can I use this song in a commercial? And they'll be like, sure, go for it. And so I'll just borrow music from friends. And when I first started, I didn't do that. I probably didn't follow the rules when my first ads. But nobody said anything yet. So
Where you put somebody else's song in there without asking?
yeah, that might have happened. Maybe, but we'll figure it out.
You know, it's funny about that you got an iPhone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because my favorite ways to hear people's songs are the shit that they record into their phone. Like that little group I'm talking about. That's all we do. We record our stuff on our phones and sit it on. And it's weird because I think it's something about the compression on those apps or the phones or whatever. Just like everything pops. Everything pops,
Right.
you know, in the right way. It's weird.
See, I've gotten better. If you go back, and I know y'all don't edit y'all shows. No. And from the very beginning, you're like, we don't edit, and I was like, that's probably a shot at me because I'm definitely editing my shows.
No.
Definitely not a shot at you. It was a shot at our own laziness, is what it was.
No, Jason, what it is we offer the live stream experience.
I dig it.
Yeah, that's
I
it.
dig it. And you can't really edit. I mean, the video would be hard to kind of make it
exactly
seamless.
Yeah.
But also, like, and I said laziness. This is a joke. Neither one of us are lazy. We're just busy as hell. And
Right. It takes time.
If we had to do this, where we were like having to edit in addition to the show, in addition to our jobs, in addition to playing however many shows a week and doing whatever else, we would just stop because we just wouldn't have time to do it. So
it takes me now. Like when I first started, I didn't know anything about editing, and I would just put them up raw, unedited, and then I finally got to where I can adjust the levels, right? Because sometimes my mic might be too high, and Jeremy talks way too loud most of the time. And so I've learned to kind of adjust the levels, cut out some of the dead space. And
sorry, you mean Ray, right?
Yeah, Ray. We know his real name. His name's Jeremy. I don't know why he's been doing his show forever, and his radio name is Ray Howard for whatever reason. Really dumb name, Jeremy. I hope you watch this. But, so he had the idea when we started my show to do Rivers and Ray, right? I'm Rivers, he's Ray, and it doesn't always work that way. But I've gotten better at editing. But it'll take me an hour and a half probably to edit a 2-hour show.
Yeah.
You know.
I know that with this software or the site that we use for ours, you can have a paid version that allows everyone's audio separately to be saved.
Right.
And then if we wanted to go in later, we could take it all and edit it all and add the and Greg says you have to go live.
Yeah. Greg's live. He's the man.
He wants it what do you call it? Warts and all. Like he wants.
Yeah,
to see
baby,
all
I like it raw. Anybody? Shimmy, y'all. I played that song for my son the other day. He said, "This song's horrible." Not an Old Dirty Bastard fan. But yeah, so that's what happened when we recorded at Cheatham Street with Ethan. His setup, he had 2 mics, and they were both recorded separately. Well, we don't do that. All of our feeds go into the same audio file.
Was that Ethan's setup at that place?
Yeah, that was Ethan. And so when he emailed me the file and I listened to it, and I'm like, oh shit, this isn't going to work. This is just me. I can't hear the other people. I thought it was garbage. And then he sent me the other file and I was like, okay. So then I just married them together and it made sense. And so I learned something new that day.
It does. And it would actually be easier in person, I think, to do that than like our setup here. Because again, we would have to pay for that thing to get the separate audio files to be able to adjust those levels and everything. And we don't like to pay for things.
Right.
Well, I mean, at a certain point, it might be worth it, but until we get to that point, it's I think it's honestly like I kind of like the live stream experience. I think it's fun. Honestly, it's not always perfect, but it's a way of doing it. So it's kind of our way for right now. So.
It is. No, I like it. I like y'all's format. I like the video option, but you can also listen to it without the video. And I'll find myself doing that, right? I'll have it on Spotify or wherever. And then most of the time I'm not watching, but then when I want to, if something happens and I want to look, I'm like, oh, there it is. I can see y'all, and that's cool. I wish we had more video, but again, it's not something not another headache.
Right.
You
know, I like to take little short videos, and I have a tripod I use. But some guests just don't want video. You know, and I'll ask them, and I've had guests say, no, I don't want any video, you know, so that's cool. Whatever. I've also had guests not play music. And so, you know, I'm probably one of the first guests on here that hasn't played music.
By the way, it's about time for you to play us a song.
So here's what was going to happen. I was going to ask you to play a song because you've never played a song on your own show, I don't think.
We actually kind of decided, because of the audio issues that we always tend to have every time, like it always sounds great, and then somebody starts playing a song, and all of a sudden it starts getting choppy or freezes up or whatever. And I don't want anybody to look bad. You know, I don't want anybody to come on our show. And also somebody told me that guests will say yes, they'll do it, but they really inside don't really want to do it.
I got you. Yeah.
So, I think it's different in your show, because your show is like an actual setup in person
at a radio station.
At a radio station, it's very different. People are used to going on a radio show and performing live.
Yeah, I have a stool they can sit on. they're very used to that.
That's the key to radio, is a stool. Like
you know what we could do, Justin? We could just tell people to get their own stool and to just bring it out when it's time to do the song. Yeah,
and it'll just click. Oh man, I was gonna say something, but I completely forgot now. That's too good.
He says I have a stool.
Yeah, Greg told me earlier I need to have some fire truck sounds in the background here.
Well, Justin had his own sirens earlier.
Yeah,
so.
I
Is that what it was?
That was it. Yeah,
I live next to a fire station, so I hear it all the time.
That's awesome.
And usually it happens mid-show. No matter what podcast I'm doing, it'll happen. There's a lot of traffic on the street right outside my apartment, and the truck will get stuck in the traffic, and you're just like, well, I can't really do anything about that. So,
well, that's what happens. We're right downtown, and so it's a busy street right in front of us, and we're right by the fire station.
Yeah, that's happened to y'all a few times for
almost
sure.
Every other show, probably a fire truck will drive by, or we'll have a burnout, or somebody revving engines or bumping music. And again, or the squeaky noises, or my phone will go off, or I'll screw something up. And so I've gotten to the point where that's kind of the charm of the show, maybe to some degree, right? It is raw. And I think Ethan Whitaker was the first person who said that when I sent him the recording of Zach Welch, and I was like, it's pretty rough, man. It's got this weird buzz in it. And he's like, oh man, no, that's cool, dude. That's like, underground stuff, or, the rawer, the better.
I would not expect anything less from Ethan.
Right.
Because Ethan is very much about that, catching it. And he's like, we had this whole conversation about, he likes the idea of capturing like the progress of an artist. So, come in and record shit on a computer with the computer microphone and not even having like studio things or whatever.
Yeah.
And then and as it progresses, and the songs get better, the performances get better, and everything gets better. But he very much likes to capture the actual person and what they're doing and how they sound.
I dig that. That was a really good episode. I like listening to Ethan talk. He's a cool guy. And Zach, right? Y'all's episode with Zach Welch. You could listen to Zach talk for 12 hours.
Oh yeah. It's funny because there are some guests that you get on that we've had on. Like we were talking about at Holler Choir, the Clint Roberts we had on a couple of weeks ago. Like I would just ask a question, and he's off. Like he's off, and he's gonna say plenty of interesting things about the question that you just asked, and so we don't say much of anything, and some people you got to probe a little more, and some people the conversation like goes kind of off the rails a little bit, but I guess there's a skill to it that we're still trying to get down,
right. Half is preparation, half is just being flexible, right? And again, I was talking to Justin, and the good thing about my show is if things get weird or awkward, I can just say, we're going to listen to a song and just hit play and be like, we're taking a damn break, And
we're running out of time.
And I'll edit that shit out afterwards, and I've had to do that. I'll edit out stuff if it gets a little weird or confusing. My thing is I want the artist to sound good, and a lot of people will have tics, or they'll have speaking things that they go to, and like a lot of people they'll tick before they talk, and so a lot of times I'll edit that out. I'll clean it up a little bit, or if they misspeak, I'll try to clean that up just to make it they're sounding as good as I can make them sound with my limited skills, right? But things don't always go the way they should. We had a band on recently, and they wanted to try something new, and they wanted a plug in a vocal pedal, to the board for some effects. And I was like, I don't know, I've never done this. Most people just go acoustic, and it got a little wild, and the volumes were peaking so bad I couldn't clean it up, but I had a conversation with them, and I was like, I can edit it out if you want me to, or I can leave it. And they were like, screw it, just leave it. We know it doesn't sound perfect. It's not what they wanted or what I wanted, but we're just going to let it live what it was, so I try not to take away from the essence of the show, but try to make it sound as good as I can.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah, your show sounds great. As we kind of get out of here, do you have any future goals? Are there things that you're looking to achieve that, you've already, you've been doing this for a couple of years now. Is there something that you're what's the next step of Texas River Talk? That's
a hard one, because I got to the point, there was a decision I made around December. I took a month off during the holidays, went and visited family, went to New Mexico, and took a break, and was just trying to decide if this is something I wanted to even continue doing. And I got to the point where I was like, I'm okay walking away from this today and any day. What it is, what I have, and the audio I collected, I think stands alone, right? I'll just leave that record there, and I'd be okay with that. But I would definitely like to build and do more. So the way that I've started to kind of think about it is, again, because I'm a teacher and I work in semesters, I work in 4 to 3 month chunks. I try to just envision the 3 month chunk, and I'm going to work and do this for 3 months, and then I'll reassess and keep going. So my goal is just to keep getting mainly local artists that are up and coming in, keep pushing great music and shows, and then just sprinkle in bigger names every now and then, maybe once a month or once every other month. Get hopefully some of those big fish that I've been trying to get on that I'll probably never get on,
Reel them in. Yeah.
Yes. So I've reached out to people like Charlie Crockett, Vincent Neil Emerson, and some bigger names that I think are probably too big for what I'm doing now, but who knows? Right? You never know. So I keep that door open. But I have a lot of artists in the Austin area specifically that I want to get on, right? There's a goal for me to get Rattlesnake Milk and Ellis Bullard in studio. There's certain names that I think if I don't end up getting them on, I'll be a little bit disappointed in.
Have you not had Ellis on there?
He was supposed to come in last February, but we had that big freeze.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And he lives in an apartment where the hill's really steep. And so that didn't work out.
That dude's got a great sound.
Dude, one of the most badass dudes around.
He's got kind of one of those baritone voices as well, but he's definitely more honky tonk sound.
His show is like a honky tonk preacher. You watch him, he looks like a televangelist. He moves has that performance, and he just puts on a hell of a show.
I tweeted at him a while back. I was like, you need a fiddle player. And he's like, I've been meaning to reach out. And I'm like, is he? Wait.
Dude, and that album is so good. But the other thing that's really cool about since I've been doing this for a little while now, is just kind of watching artists grow. And kind of like you were talking about with Ethan, watching Tweak. The first time I saw Tweak, he was on a stool by himself, opening up for Joshua Ray Walker at Cheatham Street. It was just him and the stool. I saw him for the first time. I was like, this is badass. But now watching him with the full band, that new single, Feeling Good. I mean, it's so damn good. And just watching people like him and Derek McClendon just get better and just struggle, and ups and downs that musicians go through on a day-to-day basis. You could be opening for your hero one day and then getting your show canceled the next day. You know, I mean, it's such a wild and human experience once you get to know people and kind of just watch the struggles and share a little bit in those struggles. You know, it makes it that much more meaningful. I think whenever I get to see them live, I'm like, yes, like,
yeah,
this is awesome,
man. Like I said, I've heard the songs that are going to be on Tweak's album, and they are a progression of what you've already heard. That's probably the best way I have to describe it, because it's a progression in a lot of ways, but in the songwriting as well as the production as well. He's got like this really talented guy that's putting it together for him, and it's going to be great.
That's awesome.
I haven't heard
can't
anything
wait.
beyond like the initial things, but I feel like he posted the other day he's like went in for the studio for the last time. The next stop is like mixing and mastering, right, or something like that. So,
yeah, I think I read that. Yep. Well, I'll be able to ask him about it on Friday, so this is going to be cool.
There you go.
And so what else? If you're in Dallas, obviously come to South by Southwest this Saturday, but in Houston on Saturday at Cottonwood, you got the Dead or Alive Crawdaddy Jamboree with Summer Dean, Ellis Bullard, Chris Seymour, and South Texas Tweak. So if you're in Houston, Cottonwood Saturday is the place.
All right, Justin.
That's right.
There
you go. Cottonwood. Or Tuesdays. I don't know. Do you have kids, Justin?
I don't.
Okay. Well, Tuesday
he
nights.
Did, but he sold them.
Right.
Yeah.
I sold him to do this podcast. Yeah. It was
smart move.
Got this laptop and this mic. It was a good deal. Yeah.
But Tuesdays at Shoeshine Charlie's down by the Continental Club in Houston on Tuesdays, they have the Horny Tonk every Tuesday. And I hear that's the spot. I've been trying to get to Houston for one of those shows, and it will happen. My wife knows. She just doesn't know when. It'll probably be this summer when I get a week off.
Yeah.
I'm going to drive down to catch those boys in Houston.
Very cool. Blake, once again, like just kind of as we're getting out of here, why don't you plug your next episode that you got coming up this Friday and how people can find you on social media and Spotify and your radio station website, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so kzsm.org is the website. Again, we're a nonprofit. So if anybody wants to donate some money, I know you don't, but there's a donate button on the website. Thank you, Mom, for all your support.
One donor. For
the T-shirt fund, the Texas River Tonk T-shirt fund. But the biggest difficulty is it's all just one word, no spaces, TXRiverTonk on everything. Facebook's there. I do it, again, because my mom's there. And Instagram is usually kind of where you're going to get most of the video content. I put a lot of show video and extra video material on Instagram just because it seems to work better there. Twitter's really weird. I could post a video or a clip or a show promo on Twitter and it might get a few likes, but I could post a picture of my dogs on Twitter and it'll get 3 times the likes. You know, it's like the stuff that people like on Twitter makes no sense. But I am there. You can find me there. I'll talk about shows there, but Instagram's probably where you're going to get the best content. And yeah, South Texas Tweak, Chris Seymour, and maybe some other people this Friday for the 69th episode. I forgot to mention next week, Dan Whitaker. I have 2 guests coming in. Dan Whitaker, he's got a new album coming out. He's having the release party at Sagebrush that Thursday. So next Thursday, he's going to be in studio, and also Gene Reeves, really great kind of up and coming artist out of New Braunfels. I think the Canyon Lake area. I'm gonna have 2 guests. So I think next week might be like a 3-hour episode is what I'm thinking. I'll kind of break it up. I'll figure it out. So yeah, come find me.
That's awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
I almost finished this beer. Hold on.
Okay.
I finished one.
All right, I'm getting there. Well, thank y'all. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So Blake's finishing his beer, but we want to thank Blake, of course. But we want to thank all of you who are watching this now or later on YouTube. And if you're doing that, do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. And we really appreciate it. Also, we're available on podcast platforms like Spotify and Stitcher. So if you prefer the audio version of the show rather than the video, I understand sometimes you do. Check us out there. Give us a follow there. We appreciate that. Rate and review. That stuff all helps us. But hey, like I always say, if you're checking us out on Spotify, the video is available on Spotify also. So like, just look at it on your phone. The video actually looks better. It's on a smaller screen. So have fun with that.
Can't see my wrinkles as much.
Exactly.
I don't know what that was about,
Yeah.
but
You
anyway.
got that gray hair. But no, I think what you said about liking on Spotify, I think that's a big thing that a lot of people don't do,
Yeah.
or rate it. Just give them a rating. And I think it takes 10 to get it to actually show up. But that's a big thing, I think, and that people should do. If you like what they're doing, give them a rating. If you don't like what they're doing, then obviously don't rate it.
Yeah. And that goes for YouTube also. Like whenever we have a guest on who's a band or whatever, I'll like literally every song if I listen to it, because that stuff does matter. Like I don't know that people truly understand that, but yeah, once you get enough of those likes, it really helps get your content in front of more people. And so
Right.
it's a free thing. It's just a click. It's really not hard. I understand like people don't want to always do that, but it really does help the people that you're listening to. So especially for free shows, if it's a free thing, like that's all you got to do. And I do that now for everything. And I listen to a ton of podcasts and I follow a ton of YouTube channels and it can get out of control, but it's just, for the smaller ones like us, it helps. Like that stuff really does help. So
Absolutely.
we appreciate that. And much like Blake here, we're on social media, as is everybody. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter at LFDT Pod, at LFDT Pod. Again, LFDT is Let's Freaking Do This. We're also on Facebook, right, Jason? You created that one for us.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Killing it.
Big time on Facebook.
Yeah. We're big into meta. We're
Meta. Yeah.
the metaverse.
I actually just put on those VR things and I post all the things with that on it.
Yeah. And only those things. That's all you
Only
wear.
those things,
That's all you wear. Yeah. You really get some inside.
I don't even know what I'm talking about. They have don't they have a VR thing?
Yeah,
Oculus.
is it Oculus? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have one of those.
See, we're angling for that Facebook promotion thing. Or
Yeah.
whatever, like
Facebook money.
this, yeah.
Yeah, I'm only on Facebook, honestly, because of the radio show. I was never on Facebook until the radio show. I somehow avoided it. And then my co-host had set up a Facebook page, and he was like, wasn't running it. And I was like, well, let me run it. And so I started running it, and I had to create a personal page to run that page.
Yep.
Now I got 2 fucking pages on it, and it sucks, dude. Facebook is way too busy. There's too much going on with the marketplace. Anyway.
No, I got you. Yeah, because like we have a page, but in order to run a page, you have to have an account. And
there's so much overlap
So
and
we made
repetitive
this
notifications.
We made this guy named Let's.
right.
His last name is Freaking Do This.
That's awesome. Should have done that. Damn it.
You still could. It's out there. I don't think
I'm gonna
anybody
try.
has it. So
I'm gonna have a dude named Tex. This is gonna do all that shit.
TXRiverTonk.
Talk. So once again, thanks Blake for joining us. Really appreciate it. You have such a great podcast. I think we all enjoyed listening to it. So we can't wait to hear your latest episode, which is the magical number 69. So
Yeah,
your
it's gonna
dogs
be
are
horny.
psyched. Yeah.
The dogs are excited. They've never been on the show.
Hey,
They'll
what
never
the dog
come.
doing? Oh wait.
What is the dog doing? All right.
Yep.
Peace.
Thanks for joining us. Jason, any parting words before we get out of here?
That's it. Come see us on Saturday at Lola's
go.
in Fort Worth.
So for Jason, for Blake, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.